Welcome to what is, from my perspective, a really exciting dual presented webinar. Adaptable Firefighter Personal Protective Equipment for a Changing World. Now, if we think about how the world is changing, I think straight away that those of us that have been in the fire service will see that this is a really hot topic, for want of a better description, but it really is something that is a challenge for services globally. And this is where our sponsor today, MSA, is a global innovator and safety champion, and has been that for over 100 years. So they're ideally suited to taking us forward in this topic today. And I thank them for the generosity in providing both of our two speakers, Saima Nisar and Matt DeLorenzo, to help us guide us through this exciting presentation. I think if we try and set the scene for today before I introduce our two speakers, is climate change. It's a very prevalent topic. It's a very forward thought in a lot of people's minds. And it's not always just about, the change in heat. It's the severe changes in temperature where you have massive flooding through to the drought and all those things that go between it, the wildland fires that we see happening globally at this point in time. Very, very emotive topics. But also, as we look at how the world is changing, we look at, especially in the Middle East, how some of the building projects are being exponentially developed. The giga projects, the mega projects that are being built out there. The high rise, the low rise, the below the ground. How can we maintain connectivity with our firefighters? How do we know where they are? Because when we put firefighters into a building, we lose sight of them. So this innovation that's coming out now that we'll talk about today, how do we find out where they are, and what are the potential solutions for us, and how, as an incident manager, can that help us keep track and monitor the performance of our people? So our two speakers today, we're going to start with Saima Nisar, who is the product line manager for firefighter protective clothing for MSA. She's over 28 years of product manager experience, and especially in innovative materials and technology. When we met a week or so ago, I was impressed by her passion. I was impressed by her knowledge, and it excited me. So if it excites me, hopefully it will excite you. And then second, we'll use Matt, who's the product group director, who's joined us. He's had to get up very early this morning. So Matt, I thank you for that, because he's showing how connectivity and the internet is our friend, because he's positioned in the United States of America at the moment, whereas I'm in the UK, and obviously many of you are in the Middle East to join us here. So Matt, who's based in Cranberry Township in Pennsylvania, USA. So again, he's 15 years of experience in physical and digital product strategy, and how that connectivity will help us go through there. So I always want to stand on the show and be the face of this, but I'm going to hand over to Saima so that she has the time to share with her knowledge and experience in this innovative and challenging time. Thank you, Saima.
Thank you. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. So, as we've heard, our planet's climate is showing signs of the devastating impact caused by human emissions of greenhouse gases since the mid-20th century. Wildfires, floods, and extreme weather events are on the rise. We all heard in the news about the devastating floods in Valencia, Spain, and the deadly wildfires in Los Angeles, California. Both of these extreme weather events left a trail of destruction, damaging properties and businesses and causing fatalities and injuries to people. Whilst both regions are on the road to recovery, it still highlights the plight that we as human beings face around the world. Life as we know it is changing rapidly on a global scale. A very recent report in 2024 on climate change highlighted the unprecedented global temperatures following on from the remarkable warmth of 2023. It also became the first year with an average temperature clearly exceeding 1.5 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial level. That's a threshold set by the Paris Agreement to significantly reduce the risks and impacts of climate change. Multiple global records were broken for greenhouse gas levels and for air temperature and sea surface temperature, contributing to extreme events including floods, heat waves, and wildfires. This data highlights the accelerating impact of human-caused climate change. Climate isn't only an environmental problem, it's an economical, industrial, and political matter of increasing urgency, as seen by the fire and rescue industry. New hazards are emerging as both direct and secondary consequences of climate change, presenting critical and often unfamiliar challenges for first responders. Many researchers agree that as the planet grows warmer, fire and rescue departments will need to begin incorporating climate science into the way they work, from strategy and budgeting through to how they assess the safety of workers on the front lines. Firefighters are more exposed to risks such as fatal and physical disability, and also face the risk of greater impact to their health from inhalation of toxic fumes, blood pathogens, viruses, psychological disorders, and often having to carry more weight as they attempt rescue missions. So how are interventions due to climate change like wildfire and technical rescue different to structural firefighting? Well, they're happening more frequently and are far more common than they ever were. They're also longer duration missions. For example, some wildfires can last for multiple days. Then they are also encompassing various applications and scenarios which are very different from each other. For example, such as wildland firefighting versus technical rescue, water rescue operations, and then you've got road traffic collisions and urban search and rescue. We are really beginning to see a pattern of new challenges to firefighting services globally as firefighting becomes more arduous and difficult with ground operations. These images speak for themselves. You can see how different the environment and the circumstances are for each of the applications. The first one requires the strongest protection as firefighters will go into the fire. So they need to be protected with the right PPE along with respiratory protection. Different fabrics and layering solutions are used for each of the garment types. For structural firefighting, a heavier, bulkier, 3-layer construction is required, whereas for the urban search and rescue or wildland firefighting, 1 or 2-layer construction garments are okay. Similar for head protection, lighter helmets are suited for rescue situations or wildland fires. As the rescue teams work in different weather conditions, it's really important that they do not overheat for their efficiency and comfort. It's important to have gear specially designed for that type of intervention and that they are duty-specific garments. However, at the same time, this clothing needs to respond to certain risks and hazards that firefighters can face at the intervention. Whether it's a road traffic collision or wildland fire, these firefighters still need to be protected, and there are norms and standards in place that will do just that. For example, the EN 16689 firefighter rescue garments. We also have EN ISO 15384, personal protection for wildland fires, and there are some other norms included. So for the rescue interventions, you need protection from hazardous and toxic chemicals or from viral and bloodborne pathogens. For these, we use specialized moisture barrier fabrics and membranes which guarantee durability even after multiple wash cycles. Being durably waterproof and breathable in all weather conditions is very important for comfort in use. Also, design and ergonomics are very important, with having enhanced knee pads and elbows or longer trousers and backs on jackets, etc. High visibility is a key requirement, as you would expect. And as reflective tapes play a key role here, being able to clean your garment with multiple wash cycles is key in order to keep the high visible elements clean and visible. Moving on to wildland fires. Here, lightweight protection is very important as these interventions last a very long time. So single layer garments are recommended. The design element will hold certain features such as trousers that have double layer reinforcements for better support in environments with rugged vegetation. The design features will be compatible with respiratory protection and other accessories. We are really evolving and improving our materials and designs in order to meet these challenges. As we move on and talk about the correct PPE for specific applications, reports are showing that only 7% of all firefighting interventions are structural fires. Again, it's very important to provide firefighters with lighter weight garments which cover all other duties but are still protecting them from risks and hazards that we spoke about. Such garments will allow more freedom of movement that's required for physically demanding rescue situations, or will be more breathable whilst on wildfire interventions, which can take many hours or days. Having structural gear as a universal suit can no longer be the case. Duty-specific garments will have some design elements which support the characteristics of the fire. If I take the example that I gave before for wildland turnout gear, the lightweight single-layer jacket has underarm gussets for enhanced sweat and heat transfer. The trousers have double bottom layer reinforcements for better support in environments with rugged vegetation. So fit for purpose is one thing, the other is fit for form. Any PPE can only protect the wearer if it is correctly fitted. So it's an important consideration to offer styles and cuts to cater to all genders. At MSA Bristol, we've always offered all our garments in both male and female sizes, understanding different body shapes and measurements. Significant research shows that incorrectly fitted PPE for all genders can increase injury rates. And then it comes on to cleaning. It's critical to remember that appropriate cleaning and maintenance of turnout gear will assist in extending the lifespan of the garments. Such cleaning should be independently validated to maximize elimination of harmful contaminants and particles. Here you see examples. MSA Bristol can offer garments designed for each application. We understand the climate has changed and we have water-resistant solutions ready to help out. Firefighters face the challenges they do. We offer products designed for wildland or technical rescue applications only, but also products that can be used in both, such as the hybrid garment in the middle here, or our F2XR helmet that is certified both for wildland and rescue. The single layer X4 wildland garment is designed for long duration interventions in hot environments where comfort, lightweight, and safety can be critical. This suit is an excellent choice for open area fires, where wearing a structural suit could be too inefficient. The X4 wildland suit extends the X4 family with the same cut and style as the premium structural suit, ensuring the same level of ergonomics. We understand it's challenging to equip firefighters with many different suits in a short space of time. So we've developed a two-in-one solution, the X4 Technical Rescue Wildland Hybrid. This is a very interesting, versatile suit that can be used for both technical rescue and wildland firefighting. It features a moisture barrier that can easily zipped in or out to make the suit compliant with either rescue or wildland only requirements. When the moisture barrier is zipped in the suit, it's also suitable to serve at rescue interventions, providing durable water resistance, breathability, and protection against bloodborne pathogens. However, the moisture barrier can be taken out when not required, for example, when fighting wildfires, where single light one-layer construction is ideal. So we offer this hybrid solution to serve both occasions, as it can easily convert from technical rescue to wildland by zipping in or out the moisture barrier. Having this dual use suit not only is comfortable and protective, but can effectively reduce costs and optimize the budget as it serves two applications to a very high standard. Another interesting solution that we've been working on is a rescue stretch suit that can offer excellent comfort and freedom of movement when compared to any other solution due to its four-way stretch technology being embedded in the fabric. This lightweight, breathable and water-resistant garment is also a multi-norm clothing, offering pathogens and chemical protection, additionally protecting from incidental flames and fires. So hopefully this lets you see how climatic challenges are affecting the firefighters and how we at MSA Safety are responding to help continue to keep them safe. If you have any questions or would like to reach out to us, please scan the QR code on your screen to get in touch with us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Saima. It's left me reflecting before I hand over to Matt in how PPE has changed from the time when I joined the fire service back in 1982, when we had plastic leggings with cuts in for your hands to get into your interior trouser pockets, little short tunics, no flash hoods, no gloves, and a large cork helmet, to where now they provide so much more protection and ergonomic protection, as you correctly illustrated in your presentation. And that's really important for our firefighters, as you said. Ill-fitting, incorrectly fitted PPE adds to the incidence of injury. And that's one of the things that MSA has been really strong all the way through. It's about keeping people safe. And as an incident manager, one of the most important things for me was to send my people home safe at the end of the day. So again, one of the other things that I find really important with the PPE, and I see Simon nodding away at me, is that if you're going to have to wear PPE for a long time, it needs to be comfortable. Because if it's not comfortable, your firefighters, your rescuers are going to want to dress down. They're going to want to take it off. And they're going to expose themselves to the pathogens, the toxins, the carcinogens that are naturally occurring in the environments that we're working in. And therefore their long-term health is affected. But what also came off the back of that was the fact that this new equipment, the new PPE that is available, is able to withstand multiple washes, multiple cleaning cycles. And that's another thing that the fire service needs to take to heart, is keeping themselves clean. And don't multiple wear fire kit like we used to in the years ago, where it was the badge of honor to wear dirty fire kit. We need to keep ourselves clean. Remove the pathogens, remove the carcinogens, keep them away from us when we're unprotected, when we're not wearing respiratory protection. Bag it, take it away, get it cleaned, bring new kit back out. So hopefully, Saima, that sort of supports what you're trying to say. But I am passionate about firefighter decontamination, not just from a hazardous material environment, but for the hazardous materials that we get exposed to. I want firefighters to have a long and healthy life, and this is a start for driving it forwards. Having been exposed to the urban search and rescue, your rescue equipment or your rescue kit that you're looking at, which stretches 4 ways, the working in confined spaces, stretching, you know, the entrapped environments that people will be working in, the long duration, the arduous conditions, the hot, the uncomfortable, that all makes a really big difference to those of us that are working in that rescue environment. And I've also experienced of wildland fires, where we had one that lasted probably 15 days, where we only had structural firefighting equipment. My feet ached. It was uncomfortable. Everyone wanted to take their tunics off, you know, to maintain a core body temperature, so we didn't overheat. So again, looking at the multi-layer stuff is really, really, really innovative, and I thank you for that. So hopefully we've whetted your appetite before we move into Matt's element, where he's going to talk about how we can connect each other on the fire ground. And I'm sure I'm going to have something to say on the end of that. So Matt, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks, Bob. So Structural and firefighting is inherently dangerous work, and there are all kinds of factors to consider when attacking a fire. And I just wanted to talk about a few of those different challenges that arise. Number one, people. So as a concern, who is on scene? Not just who's responding, but who is in the structure? Um, who might be in need of rescue? What are the circumstances around that situation? Who's around the scene? So neighbors, other businesses, other folks who could be in danger's way if the winds change, or if as people arrive and are hustling to the scene, could be at risk. And then, of course, speaking to the people who are showing up, who's coming to the scene? How do we know that they're ready to work? How do we know that we're going to keep them protected? How are we ensuring that they're all accounted for? As a second concern, of course, property, right? There are so many material factors that we have to think about. Modern day architecture versus older architecture that you have to be concerned about, and the building materials that were used, and how that affects the way that a fire burns and moves and changes. The containment concerns. So what other structures are nearby? Who else and what else might be at risk if the fire shifts or moves or jumps to the next building? Third, a matter of preservation. So something that one of my colleagues brought up, I wanted to share. Well, there are other needs around property, whether it's a cultural or historical circumstance where you need to preserve as much of that building or property as possible to minimize the damage to some historical structures. And third and finally, coordination. This is the big one. There are so many people involved in trying to support and help battle a fire. All the communication that's going on between the first responders, whether it's firefighting or police or whomever else, EMS, who might be showing up, emergency services. And then doing that well across multiple radio channels and trying to monitor all of that chatter, all of that noise, all of that sound, and pull the right information out of that so that you can make good decisions. It's a chaotic environment. It's very stressful. And of course, over years, people get well trained and hearing the things that they need to hear, but there's always a risk of missing something important as the communication accelerates and becomes more crowded. Now, on modern day, of course, speaking about structures that are both above and below ground, all types of new challenges when you're dealing with skyscrapers with tens of floors above and below ground. Same with car parks, subways, all other types of tunnel structures, basements of buildings and homes. There's all types of different challenges that you encounter with those types of structures. And that just makes it more complex. The urgency of an emergent situation, when you consider the massive scale of some of our modern buildings and structures, really put pressure on incident management and firefighters alike to ensure that the right decisions are being made to limit the damage and minimize the chaos and the difficult conditions. So, what type of help is needed? When has it arrived? If you have structures that are many, many meters long and wide and blocks long, how do you know they're showing up at the right places? Who's on scene? What are they doing? Do they need assistance? Do they have the proper equipment? If they don't, when will that arrive? So there's all kinds of different challenges that they are contending with within the incident management segment of the firefighting scenario, as well as just general leadership in the midst of that busyness. Now, unfortunately, given the dynamic nature of incidents, it's very possible, as I mentioned, to miss important messages or to lose track of time when you're relying solely on voice communication and some visual cues as people arrive. We've heard many examples of close calls, like, for example, the time a team with radio challenges became disoriented, and the fire chief sent a rescue team in due to his concern about the team's lack of engagement over the radio, only to have the team exit with only 3 minutes left of air remaining in their breathing apparatus. Or another scenario, like the time where a team became entangled and had to be reached by a safety team from another fire company because they could not get in touch with their original fire company and their incident manager. And they only made it out with 10 bars of pressure remaining in their breathing apparatus. And so that leaves MSA in a position, and other manufacturers like us, to say, how can this be? How do we make this better? There has to be a better way. And from an MSA perspective, we've taken that challenge on by looking at the ways that we can understand through radio communication and other types of connectivity what's going on with teams when they're in the fire. So our M1S CBA with our control module has a way to share information about the air within the breathing apparatus, as well as some of the firefighter conditions and motion alert capabilities across a repeater network, so that information gets back to incident command and can be visualized and viewed and responded to. So now they have more information. So these telemetry systems really help to close a challenging gap in the firefighting team monitoring and communication. So an example of this, we recently worked with a European city that was having trouble within skyscrapers, both because of the height and depth of those buildings, maintaining communication across dozens of floors of a structure. And in working with them and working toward a solution, we found a way to, again, leverage these repeater systems that can ensure that the information from the breathing apparatus of every firefighter in the team is communicated across to and back to the incident command. So we were able to see who's on the 20th floor, understand, even if they're many, many floors away from us or down in the basement of that building, you don't necessarily know what number of floor they're on, but you do know that you're still in communication with them, and you can monitor their air and also issue evacuations to them to say, hey, someone in your team is running low on air. The time it's going to take for you to exit the building safely, we're going to evacuate that team and send that evacuation across. So even if they're outside of radio range from a traditional handset perspective, you do have another way to reach them and issue an evacuation to them and set their breathing apparatus into an alarm and make them aware of the need to get out of the building. A second scenario that we encountered in another European city was a tunnel scenario where there were fire teams that were deep underground and very far away, several kilometers away. And again, by utilizing this repeater system with a common hub, we were able to track fire teams across many, many kilometers and keep in good contact with them and ensure that incident command could notify them of any challenges that were happening and get them out of the structure when needed. So again, you can support dozens of firefighters. You have accountability around motion alerts and the opportunity to issue evacuations. And all of this information, whether it was the skyscraper scenario or this underground scenario, or just in general, this context can all come back and be consolidated into post-incident reports. So that data, if you have your hub connected not only to a local tablet, but also to the cloud, that information is all captured and stored and accessible to you to build post-incident reports with ease. And it's a really nice way to keep that information standardized for your department. And so with that, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to connect with you, no pun intended, but I appreciate the time. I would recommend, if you have any questions, to scan this QR code. Someone from MSA will be standing by to answer questions for you and to help you with any of the concerns you have about connectivity and to help you find a great way to support your fire teams. And Bob, if you don't mind, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Matt. Again, as I said in the pre-webinar, the two subject areas really whetted my appetite. I can only describe it as whetted it. Many years ago, when I started looking at urban search and rescue, we started looking at how we can find and locate firefighters in buildings, especially if they undergo structural failure. Now, obviously, here you've taken that innovation and technology and you've moved it far forward. So, as an incident commander, I'm in a position now where I can feel more comfortable in that I know where my people are going. One of the biggest challenges for an incident commander is, in my opinion, releasing people into a building when you can no longer see what they're doing and having to rely on their training, their skills, their knowledge of understanding of the environment, and that they're going to apply it correctly. But obviously, with telemetry, with technology, with it all moving forwards, I know that in some of your beam operator sets, you've got the ability for them to see temperature and pressure and everything else as a heads-up display. That's far greater than it used to be. We used to bring the gauge up to have a look at it to see how much air you've got left. So those things are tremendous. But also when you're looking at being able to locate them, again, and when you look at maybe next extrapolating out, we're going to look at monitoring the environment they're in and potentially their physical stress that they're experiencing, linking back into Saima's wearing a PPE, especially structural firefighting equipment. When it's heavy, it encloses you because you're trying to protect us from the outside environment. But what they also do, that increases that interior environment that we're working in. So the heat, so we can potentially look at taking that going forwards. But again, a great thought-provoking presentation, and I can only thank you for that. Now, we're not going to take direct questions from the audience as such, because there's such a technical requirement around some of the answers that are there. But I want to try and do it. I've got some questions that have popped up into my mind. So I'm going to ask them because I know that they're within the bounds of where we can and cannot necessarily go. So I'm going to open them both to Matt and Saima, and hopefully we'll discuss around them and come forward from there. I want to pick off the back of Matt's first, really. As an incident commander, obviously we mobilise people in, and in the UK we tend to mobilise at least 4 people on a fire appliance. So it leads me to the question, how many firefighters can be connected onto the same network?
That's a great question, Bob. The answer is many dozen, and it just depends on the circumstances and the number of repeaters that you use as well. But it is a rapidly deployable system that supports dozens of firefighters and teams being rolled out into a dangerous environment. So, we have scenarios where we have 100 firefighters. We have scenarios where you have 50. We have scenarios where you have up to 200. So it really depends on the circumstance. But we typically say dozens, and we like to spend time with our customers to understand their circumstances and help them make a good decision about what to get to support their scenario.
That's fantastic. Again, because obviously if you think about incident command, it all works from a footprint. I always call it a foundation, and we build on that foundation. So as you see, again, when you work with NIMS or you work with incident command system, 2 different sides of the Atlantic, they always say we're 2 great nations divided by a common language, and incident command does the same as well. So you can see how it will be able to scale up to support your operational situational awareness, and then scale back down, which I think is a fantastic opportunity for this. So thanks for that answer, Matt. I think that was great. So next I'm going to go to Saima. Again, as I alluded to, that we had this large forest fire, large for the UK, not for what you're dealing with in California, obviously, and I have great empathy and sympathy for not only the civilians that have been exposed to, but also the responders and the longevity they're going to be exposed to, and the arduous conditions that they're working in. So I was always taught the pity, praise, and promise. I pity the people that have been exposed to and lost such tragedy as struck them. But I know that your firefighters and your first responders and your emergency responders, they're going to be working hard to support and help you, and they will get it right. They will get it right. So just a personal support for those. But how can we use the wildland fire suit during rescue operations?
So, as I mentioned in the presentation, you can use it as a for rescue operations once you've zipped the moisture barrier back into it again, which as a hybrid garment, when you unzip it to take it out, you can use it for the wildland firefighting because it'll be a single layer. But in order to get all of those different protections that are required for rescue operations, you would need to zip that back in. And that will give you that protection from all of these hazardous materials that we were talking about, such as, blood pathogen type chemical, all of these other elements that really need to, you need to guard against and have be protected against. So, yeah, zip in, zip out for both.
Zip in, zip out, zip up. So
yes.
Again, I think what's really important to pick up on that is the fact that pathogen barrier is within the structure or within the rescue kit, because it's often very difficult for us as first responders to actually fully appreciate the hazardous environment or hazards that we will be exposed to. If you look at a rescue environment, if you think of a building that's come down, we're not only exposed to blood pathogens, it's airborne pathogens, and dusts and spores and mold, etc., etc. And we don't tend to think about those, but I think that's really important that by putting that second layer in, by zipping that additional barrier in, you're providing that pathogen protection. And as I said earlier, and I think you've alluded to as well, it's if you bring in equality and diversity and making sure that your PPE is fit for purpose, it's fit for and comfortable to wear, then people are going to want to wear it. And if you have to zip a second layer in, people are going to do it because they understand why. Because again, if you don't put that layer in, you become exposed to a pathogen, then you've contributed to your own problem. As an organization, we do a risk assessment to establish why we buy or why we purchase, why we go down a certain route for PPE. We provide it, but we have to wear it as well. Okay, it's important that we wear it to protect ourselves.
It's also it's certified for rescue when you have that moisture barrier in, and then it's not certified, so it's appropriate for the wildland. So that's also important as well.
I think that's a key message. Okay, it is a key message. So thank you for that, Saima. Again, I really support wearing PPE properly. I'm a great advocate of it. We always talk about the Brits being pink and fluffy, but we are, because we want our people to be safe and go home. So one of the other things that I was picking up on was there was an attachment on the front of the helmet that you showed in the presentation. What's that for?
So that was on our F2XR. That's a dual beam headlamp on the front function, and it's integrated into the helmet, so it gives full visibility in poor light conditions for the firefighters.
Okay, super. And again, having been exposed into smoke-filled environments, or what they call it now is areas of limited visibility, to be politically correct. But no, again, having the ability to light with you, again, from when I was first, when the torch was swinging down by your knees on a lump of lanyard, I think it's a much better place to have the light coming forward to support your operations again, and it keeps your hands free again, because they're one of the most important things we have in the rescue environment, the firefighting environment. If we're having to hold a torch as well, then I think that's a great innovation. So I applaud that. And the last question I have, and again, hopefully we've whetted enough appetites in this presentation, is how can we get the pricing for the equipment? How can we reach out and get the prices?
So really, this is back to those QR codes that we have in the presentation. So if simply you scan those codes you can then reach out to our team, who will put you in touch with the right team in order to be able to answer those questions for you.
Okay, fantastic. And I think that's really important for those that are watching. If we have whetted your appetite and you are interested in finding out more, please scan the QR code and somebody will come back to you directly. Even if you've got a question that I've seen in some of the chat boxes, because we can't necessarily answer those directly because of the technicalities around that. And I don't want to get it wrong and give you the wrong information. So it's really important that you reach out. But one thing the repeaters and the SCBA transmitters, are they only on the SCBA or can they be put elsewhere, Matt?
So those are individual deployable pieces of equipment. So as you're entering the fire, you leave the repeaters along the way, and they help then get the messages out. So it's not built into the SCBA at this point, or another piece of equipment. They're individual rapid deployment tools.
Oh, excellent. So, because years ago, with the London Underground, they used to have what they called leaky feeders for long tunnels. So again, a cable used to do the repeater bit for you. So again, massive improvement in technology. So thank you for that.
Sure.
I've got a million questions. And again, when I think back from where I started to when I retired 12 years ago and to where the development has gone from there, I think the multi-layer, the multi-purpose equipment, the support to the incident manager, the incident commander, that having knowledge of where their people are, not to control them during their operations, but again, to have that situational awareness, but also if something goes wrong, if the factor that happens, if the circumstances catch us out, it allows us to target our resources to go and find people, and I think that's a really great thing that comes out of this. I can only thank you again, and I've worn your equipment. I've used just SCBA, so I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of what it does and how it is comfortable. So I thank you for that. Have you anything else that you'd like to add? I'm seeing shaking heads.
No, that's all for me. Thank you, Bob.
I know. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for getting up early this morning and sharing your insight.
Oh, it's no problem.
Again, my mind is whirring at 900 miles an hour. So if mine is, hopefully the rest of the audience is. And Saima, again, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Again, the development in PPE is so important. And one of the key things I think to take away from it is the multi-layer, the adaptability, the comfort, it being fit for purpose, but also being able to be decontaminated and cleaned regularly and maintain its integral protection. And I think that's something that we all need to be mindful of. So again, thank you very much for what's been a whistle-stop tour through it. So I think it's been awesome. And I hope as we've looked through the webinar, you can see that we've looked at the adaptability of firefighter PPE and changing for climate. And having the ability to put different layers in allows us to adapt to the climate change challenges. We know that there's going to have to be specific PPE for specific tasks still on top of that, but the ability that you've got with what you've got so far is fantastic. I do know the F2 helmet is very comfortable and has adaptability, which is great. And I love the innovation with finding people and keeping track of people and how they're able to work with the telemetry side of stuff. I can only thank you both. I thank everybody that's attended. My plea is that you take away the message that PPE is important. We need to risk assess it. We need to ensure that we apply the right equipment, right personal protective equipment at the right time. and encourage, as managers, encourage our people to wear it because it's for their protection and their long-term health benefit. Again, I'll get off my soapbox because I can talk on firefighter decontamination forever. It is important to recognise wearing dirty firefighting equipment is not a badge of honour anymore. It's important to be clean and be safe. So with that, I'm going to draw the webinar to a close. Thank you both, and leave you with that nugget. Stay clean, stay safe, and thank you very much for your time.